Council will now call to order two hearings on ordinances which were advertised for hearings and consideration this evening. The first ordinance is a zoning ordinance amendment which addresses several issues which need to be revised. We refer to this type of ordinance as a housekeeping ordinance, and we adopt some type of housekeeping ordinance every year or two. The second ordinance is an amendment to the subdivision and land development ordinance. This ordinance is shorter than the zoning ordinance amendment, but it also makes some corrections that our staff thought were appropriate. These hearings are your chance to let council know what you think about the ordinance. Mr. Walker will provide more detail on the changes which are being made, and then you will have a chance to make comments.
So on this slide that's coming up, there's some bullets here. As Mr. Whiteside said, this is really just a minor updates to the zoning ordinance. We did a lot of updates. In fact, over half of the updates on the zoning amendment, or for the first 5 pages of it, are definitions. So as council adopts ordinances throughout the year and stuff, it changes definitions. Sometimes they don't match with our former definition section. And then over time, just the market changes. There's new terms, new real estate markets, and new things that we are not keeping up with the market. So over half of the update are definitions. It also provides size regulations for accessory buildings. So an example of that is a detached garage. As you know, you've dealt with that in the past with zoning hearing board applications. We have nothing in our zoning ordinance about size regulations for accessory buildings. So this puts in a number, which we've never had before. So basically, an accessory building can be no larger than 50% of the primary building. So if the house is 1,000 square feet, the accessory building can be no larger than 500 square feet. If they want to go larger than 500 square feet, then they have to go to the zoning hearing board. Revisions to the buffer requirements to allow fences. This is something, as you know, we have screen buffers, we have perimeter buffers in our zoning code. Our zoning doesn't allow fences in our buffer areas, but in the past, the applicants asked to put fences in the buffers. And we've also requested fences in the buffer ourselves doing land development and other development in town. So this would allow fences to require buffer. We're not talking about environmental buffers. We're talking about screen buffers and perimeter buffers. Update the parking requirements. As we change our definitions, that has to be reflected with our parking requirements in the zoning code to match the definitions that we update. We've added also brew pub, micro hospital, micro brewery. These are things that have occurred since the last update to our zoning code that didn't exist back then. So we have parking requirements for them built in. Revisions to hotels. We have a hotel ordinance. Our hotel ordinance never talked about and never described with definitions like, well, what is a motel? What is a hotel? What is a business class hotel? So now we've added them into our ordinance, defining what each of them are. Revisions to permits required section for enforcement actions. That was really the last section. I don't have it for my ordinance, but we didn't really have anything in writing to address some of the zoning. Let me just get to that one sentence. It's page. So section 11, page 8, no zoning permit shall be issued for properties where there is a conservation easement, deed restriction, covenant, or easement recorded against the property that prohibits the use and or structure applied for. We never had that language in our zoning code before for that protection, but now we have that built, and now we've added that. And just various updates within the ordinance to be consistent with the revised definitions. So that's a quick zoning ordinance of what we're doing with the zoning ordinance updates. The SALDO, the subdivision and land development ordinance amendment, to update the property owner notification requirements. I don't know when, years ago, it's in the ordinance that the owner has to notify everybody within 1,000 feet of the property. That's never happened here. It's the township's job, it's the township's responsibility to make sure that those property owners within 1,000 feet are notified. That's what we've always done here. We write the letter, we mail the letter, so now it matches what our practice is. Revised parking stall size for consistency with the zoning ordinance. As you know, we've had this confliction between the saldo and the zoning for many years on 10 by 20 and 9 by 18 for non-commercial uses. So the zoning already allows for non-commercial uses to be 9 by 18, but our saldo doesn't. So people have to come here just on that issue. So now for non-commercial uses, our saldo will be 9 by 18 and match the zoning ordinance. Revised buffer requirements to allow fences in consistency with the zoning ordinance. We have what I mentioned earlier about the buffer zones and the fencing. This will match the saldo. So everything matches and everything's the same. And then something you already 50% did already at your reorg meeting in January is to relocate the impact fee amounts to the fee schedule. And that's if council ever wants to amend those land development fees, and I'm talking not the application fees, I'm talking about the outfall fees for stormwater, the park open space fees. You can easily change those fees in the resolution if you have to do it by ordinance. As you know, amending an ordinance is more time consuming than just updating a resolution. And those are primarily the changes and updates that are in front of you this evening.
Does anybody have any questions on either the zoning or the saldo? Anybody from council have a question?
Just want to thank staff for the work that went into this. It's a big lift, but it seems like it was timely and helpful to keep everything consistent, so thank you.
Close the hearing, and these will be considered later in the meeting. So I guess now we'll wait till 8 o'clock.
Yes.
All right, it's 8 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Shall we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item tonight is a check presentation to St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry and St. Matthew's Little Pantry. This is from the proceeds of our annual Freezer 5K. Bill or Dennis?
I'll let Dennis talk about the Freezer 5K in a minute, but just as everyone knows, St. Matthew's could not be with us this evening, but we have Steve and Patty from St. Vincent de Paul, and I know I say it all the time, but we as a community are blessed to have St. Vincent de Paul and Horsham, and what all the work you and your volunteers do is amazing. 100+ families every weekend for food, but all the other stuff that you do too to get people back on their feet when they need emergency help, when they're just trying to get, again, back on their feet. And you're all volunteers. And it's pretty amazing the work that you do over there. And we're so fortunate that we have that here in Horsham for the community. Because those type of things just don't happen on their own. It happens because of people like you and before you and all your volunteers. So we really appreciate all the time you commit. You have busy lives just like we do. It's a great resource here in Horsham when people need it, and we thank you for that. And St. Matthew's too, they're a little much more scaled down than what you folks do at St. Vincent de Paul, but their little pantries emptied out almost on a daily basis. And so there's a lot of people out there in the community that need help right now. So we are fortunate to have these recreational events that we do, and and able to give you a little money towards all the work you do to help those people and those families. So we thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to Dennis to give a recap of the Freezer 5K.
The Freezer 5K this year had another great year. Participation was up as far as runners. The weather was actually beautiful. It was cold, but it's the Freezer 5K. A lot of people think because it's run in the wintertime, that's why we call it freezer, and that's not the case. It's actually to fill the freezer at St. Vincent de Paul's. So we've tweaked and updated our logo a little bit this year to a freezer that's running. But it was a great event. Hats off to Kyle Lynch and his group of volunteers that really get the event together, and had a great day, great turnout, and it really feels good towards the end of the year when people like that come together for a good cause.
All right. Well, the check we have here is in the amount of $1,225. You folks want to make any comments or have anything? And then, Bill, are we going to do a picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Ally, you help.
Did you want me to talk? Yeah. Okay, well, we just want to thank you
Only
again
if you want to.
for all your support and for the what's that? Sorry.
Is it
We
on?
just want to thank you again for all your support to the pantry. We do, like Bill said, we do help 100 families. There's probably, monthly, there's probably about 150 families that come at least once, and then there's most people come either every week or twice a week or once a month whenever they need it. So it helps, and we often get people who also are looking for help with rent, so we help them with a portion of it. Yeah, so we've been pretty busy, and this past December, we had the fill the police car, which was filled 25 times, and that was a record from when we first started. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for all your good work. It really is appreciated by all of us, especially the recipients.
Thank you.
So let's come up and get a picture.
Okay.
One, two, three.
All right. Next item is opportunity for questions and comments from the audience. Anybody with a question or a comment? All right. Next would be to approve the minutes from our January 6th meeting, 2 January 8th meetings, and a January 27th meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Treasurer's report.
The balance in the general fund as of January 31st, 2025 is $4,129,905.13. Expenditures in the general fund reflect normal activity for January. The winter has not been easy on our public works nor our budget with 9 storms. With another, that doesn't include, yes, so now we're up to 10. And what's coming? With another 2 months to go, we continue to monitor our snow and ice expenditures in our budget. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
All right. Do we have a motion to pay the checks?
I move to ratify the list of checks in the general fund and solar fund in the amount of $6,072.69, and further move to authorize payment of the same. I move to approve the list of checks in all funds in the amount of $503,026.63, and further move to authorize payment of the same. I further move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of January 2025 in the amount of $21,272.82.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item is to consider the Montgomery County Snow and Ice Agreement for the 2024-2025 and the 2025-2026 and the 2026-2027 winter seasons.
As you know, you tabled that at your last meeting for us to, for the county to get back to us with a question. They did get back to us with an answer, and the agreement is ready for your consideration this evening.
I move to approve the snow and ice removal agreement with Montgomery County as proposed for the winter seasons of 2024 to 2025, 2025 to 2026, and 2026 to 2027.
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, next we need to consider an ordinance updating the general provisions in the zoning ordinance to include, but not limited to, definitions, accessory uses, and parking standards.
I move to adopt the ordinance as proposed, updating general provisions in the zoning ordinance to include but not limited to definitions, accessory uses, and parking standards.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Laff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And our next is to do the other one. Consider an ordinance updating general provisions in the subdivision and land development ordinance to include but not limited to notification requirements for applications, moving the fees to the fee schedule, and fencing requirements.
I move to adopt the ordinance as proposed, updating general provisions in the subdivision and land development ordinance to include, but not limited to, notification requirements for applications, moving the fees to the fee schedule, and fencing requirements.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glemser, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Laff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wade, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Chunky, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Whiteside, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And lastly, I need to announce that our next Horsham Township Council meeting will be Monday, February the 24th at 7 p.m. in this auditorium. And we have a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the
Adjourn.
meeting.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh.